On a usual night in Japan, a guy named Kou Yamori suddenly decides to sneak out of his place alone without anyone knowing for the very first time. Yamori enjoys the experience of the beautiful Japanese night as he goes to the park to have fun at the swings. 14-year-old Yamori Kou is a second-year middle school student who is having trouble with insomnia as he has basically lost interest in day-to-day things. After Yamori had rejected a girl at school because of his lack of understanding towards the concept of love, Yamori's interest began to fade even more, and he lost heed in even attending the school anymore. Yamori realized that this nighttime he is enjoying will not be lasting long, as the following day will bring back his boring everyday life that lit the rebellious phase inside Yamori. He was walking by a vending machine when he had the urge to try alcohol, despite being underage. The guy gets scared and starts apologizing when a girl in a hooded cloak comes up to him and starts questioning him. The girl's name was Nazuna Nanakusa, and she revealed that she is aware of Yamori not being able to sleep at night recently. She offers to help Yamori and takes him around to reveal some interesting facts about both people and the nighttime. Nazuna claims that people usually feel like not sleeping in the nighttime because the regret from not having a day full of fulfillment starts to get into their head, and they use the feeling of freedom the night brings to find an excuse, if not an actual fulfillment, before they crash on the bed. Nazuna's explanation makes a lot of sense, and she invites Yamori to her place so she can help him out with sleeping issues. Yamori follows her to her apartment with no second thoughts, and Nazuna surprises him a little as he is now supposed to share a futon with her. Yamori agrees to share the futon, and as his insomnia is still crippling due to the voices going in his head, the guy just decides to pretend that he is in a state of deep sleep. Nazuna assumes that Yamori is asleep and reveals quite the secret when she turns out to be a vampire who drinks Yamori's blood, finding it unusually tasty. Yamori, who was already awake, gets up, and after realizing that the cute Nazuna-chan is actually a vampire, starts questioning whether he would become a vampire too. Nazuna declares that he will be fine, as there are certain parameters for a human to become a vampire, and is left a bit surprised when Yamori appears to be quite willing to actually become one. Yamori's intention to do whatever it takes throws Nazuna off a little, and she decides to take the conversation outside, where she explains those parameters further. Nazuna remarks that in order for a human to become a vampire, they first need to fall in love with the vampire, and then have the vampire bite them. Nazuna had started to talk about stuff like copulation that made the 14-year-old Yamori a little embarrassed before he sat down to remember the real reason he doesn't like girls. Yamori, who had no concept of love, is revealed to be sick of the attitude that the ugly girl was giving him, and that feeling made his usual life in the day quite boring for him. Nazuna finds the little punk interesting and offers to help him escape the norm and get out of his boring life as a joke. Yamori seems like he's been waiting for such an opportunity, as he immediately accepts right in that moment, while remarking that he would try his best to enjoy the night and become a vampire by hopefully falling in love with Nazuna. Nazuna, who is a little startled at first, accepts the kid and decides to give him the experience of his first free night out by taking him to the rooftop of the building and showing him just how beautiful and free the night feels as she flies while carrying him. After the fateful encounter he had with Nazuna, Yamori continues to sneak out of his place as he walks through another great night to meet up with Nazuna at the park. Nazuna proceeds to make some more copulation jokes and gets really embarrassed when Yamori just straight up offers her his blood to drink. Nazuna tells him not to do that and yet again asks why the guy is out here at night. The two begin to have another great experience of the night as they're walking around, after Yamori reveals his determination to become a vampire, which makes Nazuna stress once again about just how tasty Yamori's blood is. The next night, Yamori roams around the town, witnessing the beauty of the area while he is looking for Nazuna. He ends up running into Nazuna while he was walking back to his place, where she greets him to reveal how she drinks the blood of random people. Yamori acts a little jealous, but later gets to the main point as he requests that the two should share contact information, as looking around like this is really inconvenient. After making a lame joke in an ecstatic mood, Nazuna reveals that she doesn't have a phone as she never really needed it, which makes the modern-day kid Yamori quite surprised. The pair goes back to Nazuna's apartment, where she pulls out her brick phone from the 90s, before the two shared a futon for the night again. Yamori's struggle for finding Nazuna continues for another night, as he finally sits down to catch a breath at a local park. The vampire pulls up with her usual greeting style, and an irritated Yamori reveals that he had found a solution for their communication. Yamori had brought a transceiver watch for children that makes Nazuna quite eager to play with it. Yamori explains a little backstory about how he had bought one of these when he was a kid in hope of meeting someone new, but the other person who took the watch never really talked to him. Nazuna laughs a little about how childish of a punk Yamori is, and the two start to have fun as they play around with the transmitters while making jokes. Yamori gets filled with joy yet again as Nazuna takes him on a trip to the sky again and lands on his school's rooftop, where Yamori decides to give Nazuna the nickname Nazuna-chan, before he formally asks her to be his friend. Later on in the night, Yamori is wondering about what had happened to the other watch on his hand when he received a signal. He turns around assuming that it's Nazuna, but is a little surprised after finding out another girl from school right beside him. The girl turns out to be Asai Akira, a girl who Yamori had known ever since they were kids and was in the same class as Yamori. Feeling a little bit of confusion, Yamori asks Akira why exactly she has that transceiver, to which she explains that Yamori basically gave it to her. Yamori gets confused as he doubts his own memory, while Akira explains further about how she had seen Yamori put the watch above her mailbox, which actually led her to believe that Yamori wanted to give the transceiver to her and be friends. Actually, this misunderstanding led Akira to be thinking about being Yamori's friend, while Mr. Knight here had literally no idea why Akira was always hanging out with him. Akira also revealed that she was using the transceiver because Yamori had not been answering her calls or coming to school, so she went out to look for him out of worry for her friend. Yamori feels dumb about the whole situation as he taps Akira's shoulder before the two have a little chat about their lives. Akira remarks that she is out at this time as she likes to take a walk before attending a school that completely contradicts the lifestyle of nighttime enjoyer Yamori. And before Yamori finally heads back to sleep, he takes the time to actually tell Nazuna about the fact that even he had a friend all along, but he just never knew. Sometime later, Yamori was leaving Nazuna's place, and his reaction to Nazuna's teasing leads her to be suspicious about Yamori being involved with another girl recently. After leaving Nazuna's apartment, Yamori heads out to meet up with Akira as he had been doing for the past few days. And even though they were not really talking too much to each other, Akira still wanted to keep the thing going. After wondering about Akira being quieter than she used to be, Yamori asks her if she is enjoying this time full of small talk, and she remarks that she enjoys this early morning time she spends with Yamori. Yamori still wonders whether this is the only reason Akira spends time with him, when chills run down his spine upon the sight of Nazuna, who is watching the two from the sidelines all along. Nazuna pulls up with an angry look, but just starts to make fun of Yamori as Akira watches the whole thing. Nazuna remarks that her relationship with Yamori is only physical, and her words lead Akira to believe that Yamori loves the strange girl. Nazuna rants about how romance is the only thing that kids these days ever think about, before she comes up to suck Yamori's blood, leaving Akira shocked while revealing that she is actually a vampire. The conversation moves to a restaurant where Akira asks why Yamori is letting a vampire suck his blood. After Akira basically tells Nazuna to shut up, Yamori reveals that his dissatisfaction with him going to school was really the biggest reason for him letting Nazuna suck his blood. Akira tries to explain how she goes to school with the same exact feeling, and how she is happy about meeting Yamori outside like this, before she tells the guy to come back to school with her. Yamori's determination seems to be wobbling as he hesitates to answer, and that leads to Nazuna leaving the restaurant after questioning Akira about not getting in touch with Yamori. Yamori tries to follow Nazuna to ask about what's going on, and when she runs away with an angry look on her face, Yamori is seen worried. Yamori looks for Nazuna-chan throughout the city, and after no success for quite a bit of time, he sits down at a bridge where he manages to try and explain over the watch how he has no idea about how apologizing works. Apparently, Yamori was thinking that Nazuna got upset with him, but she tells him otherwise, claiming that she just got ticked off after Yamori hesitated to answer about going back to school. The night ends with Yamori learning the difference between getting angry and getting ticked off alongside some reassurance that Nazuna takes him as a friend, even though she has a few misunderstandings about that. A couple of days pass by just like previously, and one day, Akira is at school where she is wondering about things that have been going on recently when her teacher mentions stuff about how children should have a nice and strict sleeping schedule. After returning from school, Akira, who is unable to sleep, lies down to wonder about life even more, while Yamori, who had been proud of his sneaking skills improving recently, gets embarrassed after finding Nazuna easily the following night. Having mixed feelings from the night a couple of days ago, Yamori decides to get his thoughts straight before meeting up with Nazuna, and starts to wander around town, wondering about what exactly is the feeling he is experiencing. Yamori witnesses a couple kissing outside that makes him believe that he had already fallen in love with Nazuna, leading him to offer Nazuna his blood in the excitement of becoming a vampire. Yamori turns out to be having the wrong idea when he doesn't turn into a vampire despite letting Nazuna drink his blood, and Nazuna remarks how the kid had again confused this concept of love with the concept of lust, making our guy quite embarrassed. We move back to Akira, who wakes up in the middle of the night realizing that she hasn't been sleeping well recently. Akira runs into Yamori when she heads out for her usual preschool walk, where Yamori ends up inviting her to play with him at Nazuna's place, as the girl had gotten up a bit too early tonight. The trio plays games at Nazuna's place, making Akira concerned about different stuff as the night continues. Akira tells Yamori about how she completely supports him if he falls in love with anyone other than a monster, as that makes her worried about her friend. Nazuna kind of finds the concern boring, and decides to switch up the fighting game the group had been playing with a dating sim, where Yamori's choices reveal his severe lack of interest in the whole concept of school. The three lose track of time in their fun, and when the clock hits 4 a.m., Akira wants to leave, but Nazuna tells her to stay as she won't be going anywhere with heavy rain outside anyways. Akira finds the idea of sharing a futon a little absurd, but after Yamori explains his real plans of becoming a vampire by sharing his blood with Nazuna, Akira ends up getting a little relieved as Yamori now has at least some sort of drive. As both of the kids were unable to sleep at that time, the two thought that they might as well talk for a bit, so Akira asks Yamori whether he has been having fun with this lifestyle of enjoying the night recently. Yamori reassures her with his determination, and after telling Yamori to relax, Akira remarks how she will keep trying to get Yamori back to school, clarifying that she still wants to be Yamori's friend even if he becomes a vampire. Akira had gotten a lot of answers that night, and despite believing that she will not be able to sleep like always, she surprisingly enjoys some deep sleep before she rushes to school with the feeling of finally having a satisfying day in the back of her mind. Nazuna is slacking off at her place, as her mood is not the most cheerful after she wakes up. Nazuna gets mad after she ends up missing the delivery of some stuff she ordered, and the boredom leads her to wander around outside when she decides to head for a bathhouse as the time for meeting up with Yamori hadn't come yet. A while later, Nazuna meets up with Yamori with a different look to her usual one that makes the kid feel some different types of emotions. Nazuna drinks her portion of blood like usual, and the pair end up heading to a hotel to rest. As they had already entered the hotel, Nazuna decides to tell Yamori a little fact about how she is able to tell the person's feelings when she drinks their blood, and she admits that she makes Yamori intentionally excited so she can get more taste out of his blood. The pair leaves the hotel to hang around the city at nighttime as usual, when Yamori wonders about just how many people Nazuna had sucked blood from. Luck ends up filling in for Yamori's curiosity, as after seeing a random guy pass by, Nazuna remarks how she had drunk his blood before, making Yamori both jealous and concerned about what she had been doing before she met him. Nazuna confirms with Yamori that he is the only one whose blood she has been drinking, as of now, before she invites him to her place for some sort of special service. Nazuna reveals that she is a professional cuddler providing massage services and proceeds to help Yamori out for free, relieving his pain points. After a few minutes into the massage, Nazuna tries to finally get to business as she is about to drink blood again, but the process gets interrupted when an unexpected customer of Nazuna comes to her doorstep. Nazuna doesn't feel like dealing with the woman outside, so she encourages Yamori to deal with the client. Yamori finds Nazuna playing video games after he leaves the client in the massage room, and Nazuna decides to change things up a little, telling Yamori to handle the client instead of her for tonight. The client's name is Kiyosumi, who was remembering the first time she met Nazuna before Yamori came up to service her, making her a little worried. As the massage goes on, Kiyosumi ends up asking about Yamori's age, and after getting to know that he is only 14, Kiyosumi asks about his motivation to work. Yamori remarks that he just hates school and wants things to do to be free, which makes Kiyosumi cry after realizing just how much she hates her job. Kiyosumi receives a call from her boss in the middle of the night, but after seeing the look on her face, Yamori decides to make her stay. Nazuna also comes inside the room and throws Kiyosumi outside the window to let her feel the thrill of a near-death experience, before Yamori jumps in and Nazuna saves them both from dying. After apologizing, Yamori reveals his wish to become a vampire and tells Kiyosumi just how weird it is for her boss to pressure her at 2 a.m., ultimately helping her release that build-up stress. Yamori succeeds in cheering Kiyosumi up, and he makes her smile yet again after revealing that he would turn her into a vampire once he becomes one as well, making her leave happily. With the feeling of happiness from helping someone in his heart, Yamori's story continues as the nighttime proceeds to call for him while he looks forward to falling in love with Nazuna and reaching freedom by becoming a vampire.